How's it going, everyone? Welcome to today's video. I'm Ryan as always, and today we're going to be talking about some of that sweet goodness, Cinestill 50D. So a while ago I was getting some new chemicals because I do all of my development at home, and while I was adding that to my cart I threw on a few rolls of Cinestill 50D to see what the hype was all about since it was finally back in stock. Now, as the name suggests, Cinestill is known for its motion picture film. Now, you'd be able to take some motion picture film and go out, load it up into your camera and shoot some stills, and that would be just fine. The problem comes from when you start to develop the film. Motion picture film has an extra layer of chemicals on the film which is called remjet. Now, what Cinestill does is they purchase large quantities of this motion picture film and they're able to batch process it and remove that remjet layer so that it can be developed and processed just like any other photographic film in C41 chemicals. Now, one of the effects of removing that remjet layer is something called a halation. Here's some examples of that. Now, the halations are probably more prominent and popular in the 800T because that's more of a nighttime film stock. Now the 50D is definitely a daytime film, hence the 50D daylight. We're going to be shooting this at a low ISO, so let's get into it. So this was my first time ever trying this film, and I did shoot a roll of 120 on my Rapid Omega 200, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I'll be the first to admit that I struggle with focus, especially when I'm making pictures of my little nephew Matthias here. He's such a fast little dude, always running around moving, so I was super happy when I saw how sharp it was. Now, one thing that Cinestill, as well as probably every other brand out there, boasts is that this is one of the world's finest grain films, which I'm actually really happy with. There's not too much grain in this image, especially if we zoom in here to Matthias and my brother Tyler's face. I'm a pretty big fan of the grain structure. This shot was taken near the end of the day, and the light is straight in their face, and it caused quite a bit of contrast. You can see in the deep darks there is not a lot of retention there, but honestly, that's not really what I was aiming for. I was just trying to capture the moment, which I think all in all was a success. So the next shot that I wanted to show off is this one of my sister, which was just a few moments later. She's probably going to be pretty mad at me for showing this one, but I'm a big fan of this. I like the lines, I like the framing, and it's just a natural, casual shot of her giving me that look that she always does when I try and sneak some photos. Likewise, it's the same lighting as before, so there is quite a bit of contrast, specifically underneath the tramp where no light is getting in at all, which you can actually see more detail than I thought I was going to be able to. But one thing I do want to mention with this film is the kind of orange-yellow cast that the overall image has. I feel like most of the shots that I got did come out with that very warm tone, which I don't completely hate, but also isn't something I necessarily was going for. So now these next two photos that I want to show you are up the street from my house a different day. I went out and I wanted to finish off the roll. So I went out on a hike, and this first shot, I really liked how the light was interacting with the scene, and I snapped this picture. And I really am happy with this picture, but I stayed in the area and I wasn't 100% sure on my exposure. So I walked a little bit more up the hill and reframed, and I was able to make this photo, which I am so extremely happy with. I'm glad that I second guessed myself and reframed and took this shot, because just the way the blues pop in this photo really works for me. And the detail and the grain structure really works for me in this film. If we zoom in and just kind of even move around the whole frame, I am so happy with how this one turned out. So moving on a little bit, here's another one that I'm extremely happy with how it turned out for all of the same reasons. I'm extremely happy with the framing of this, with the two trees on the side and the shed or stable in the background, as well with all of the broken down parts and junk just in the foreground. I'm really happy I stumbled on this scene and that I was able to catch it. And I'm really happy with the latitude and the dynamic range on this shot. It was taken at high noon, was very, very contrasty. I had no real intentions of salvaging any of the darks. And I just took an overall metering of the scene, and I think the end result really worked out. So after this one, I had one shot left, and there were a bunch of animals right behind me, and I took about 10 minutes just trying to coax one of the horses to come closer to me so I could take a picture of it. When I looked over to the right and I noticed that the goats were just posing for me. They were so interested in whatever I was doing. So I squatted down and I took a picture of this goat right here. And this may be one of my favorites from the roll. Overall, I'm pretty happy with a lot of the results. This one specifically, I really loved the highlights. They were able to retain a lot of information even when I was metering for the shadows that are on the fence. And that's all I've got for this video, so make sure you give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and comment down below if you've used this film or what your thoughts are. I didn't want this to necessarily be a big review about the film, more just my thoughts. So take that for what it's worth, and if you like the results, go out there and give it a try. So thank you guys again for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you're into this kind of stuff, especially to stay tuned for next week's episode. We're going to attempt to wrap the whole thing while mentioning our founding fathers.